So now I'm gonna spend some time trying to see if I can progressively optimize this. So like I asked ChatGPT last time, asked I think two different chats. One is what design. So the last thing that I asked is the design that I think is best. And on another chat, I asked about whether or not he thinks that it's better to try to implement the optimizations on Godot by using the threads that Godot already has and using the same process. And it said some stuff that I didn't look into, but like basically just using everything that Godot already has and then trying to improve from there, or trying to do more similar to the way that KIO works, which is by creating different processes and then creating different workers and doing like that. And then it says that it's better to try to implement with the stuff that Godot already has. So, and I think that makes sense, but obviously I'm not 100% sure if it is better to do it with the way that KIO works. Because the nice thing about the way that they did it is that in my mind, like the concern that I have is that if you do everything on the same process, then it's going to slow down the loop of the overall thing a lot. And I think that this doesn't matter for most IDEs because you're just having text files. But if you're gonna have like more things that are more compute intensive, let's say, then it might slow down. So like in my mind, it might be better to like separate the work that is being done to load a very large directory, for example, into an external process, because then it becomes like two separate things. And try to implement based on the way that they did it. But I think that the best strategy probably, which I'm gonna try to do now, is to progressively like do the Godot way first, like try to improve with the stuff that Godot already has. And then once I get to a point that I think that's like good enough, then later on, if I want, I can try to like convert from that version into using another process. I think that makes a lot more sense. Which is basically what I'm gonna try to do now. But obviously, I have no idea how I'm gonna do this. And like so I'm probably gonna use ChatGPT a lot to try to figure out. But the most annoying thing that I'm not 100% sure about. So I have a mental model of what I'm trying to do, what I'm gonna try to do in the beginning. But the problem is like the way that it works now is that you have. Also, someone said something on the chat last time that I just streamed now. I was explaining the KIO, and I'm not reading chat, so now I'm putting it on the description there. But yeah, but the way that so this is pretty much the same class. That this would be the editor file system class that Godot already has, which is basically a class that allows you to is the class that creates the file system on the editor. So I just got that class and I basically copied and I changed just a couple of things. I just removed stuff that I think that I'm not gonna need initially, and then I changed some small things. But it's basically the same class. And then I just changed the names to use FS model instead. So the problem with this class is what happens when you try to load a very large directory. So I'm going to show there on the code. I'm going to see if it's streaming. It's basically the class that creates this component here. So the editor file system is kind of like the backend, and the file system doc is the class that has the front-end code. So I changed the name to model instead of editor file system. Is basically this class here, and this is the main function that runs to load the directory initially. So like there's two main functions that this class has. One is to load the directory in the beginning, and the other one is to watch for changes. And for both of those things, they use different threads. This is the part that I'm going to try to see if I can change now. Now basically this, it runs the scan function first, which initializes the threads that is going to call this function here. So like this is the entry point of loading the directory initially. This part changed a little bit because of the path, but it's basically the same way that it was there. It's going to call this scan new directory, and it's going to use this flag here, this scanning flag, to prevent, I think, two different threads, prevent the function from being called from another part of the code as the thread is running, which is one of the main points that is going to be very annoying, I think, to figure out. But there's also this other class here, which is the class that is responsible for managing the state of each subdirectory on the main one. And it creates the tree structure by connecting the instances of this class here. Because this is so this is another thing that I might, which I'm kind of hesitant to change or try to change, because I'm gonna have to understand how spend more time on the dir access, and it's just an annoying thing overall, because like it's recursion and it's very confusing, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on to change the state. So I don't want to spend a bunch of time thinking about this, but I think that I'm gonna have to try to implement breadth first search instead. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT first to see if it matters or not. Because the thing is, so the problem with this function, this is the function that loads the state of the backend in the beginning, and the issue is that it loads everything, and only after it loads everything, it's gonna send a signal to the front end, which is the file system doc, that is gonna load the front end. So the front end uses the state of this class here to create the tree data structure using the tree class on Godot that is going to create the actual files and folders. It's just basically mapping the state on the back end. And it only does that after you load everything. So the problem here is that I'm going to try to, I don't remember what directory is selected before. But this is another thing that's kind of weird. Like, it feels like it's taking a lot more time than it should. And I'm not really sure. Because, like, so the comparison I have is VS Code, basically. So now it's both but the File Explorer from Key IO I couldn't build, because for Linux and it's very annoying to build because you have to deal with CMake. I didn't want to spend that much time. But the VS Code one I could build, and I'm basically using the VS Code like as a comparison of the amount of time. And in my mind, this one should be faster because it's on C++. So like if both of them had the same optimizations, it should take. Obviously, it's going to be almost the same thing, but it should be like as fast or more, or as fast or faster than VS Code. And it seems that it is not. So that's the part. So see that it takes like a little bit of time to load the things. And if you select a very large directory, it doesn't show anything. So until it sends the thing. So this is the thing that I want to change. And the problem with this is that, so the way that it's going to load is going to be based on the signal that it emits. So this function uses the dir access class to traverse the directory based on the root path you pass there. And it's doing that for search, I think. But before it does that, it does this thing here as well. So after it runs there, so this is the first function that runs, the function that sets up the thread. So this situation on top here, I think this is when you're not using threads. So now I'm not really sure if yeah, this is another thing that I have to think about. But basically, it's going to emit the signal file system changed, I think, on the process. So after it runs after it finishes loading, it's gonna set scanning to false at the end there of the scan file system function, which calls scan new directory. And then this function on Godot is a function that runs every frame if you set the process equal to true to the class. And then the argument that it passes determine like what part of the cycle you are at. So the notification process is like it's processing the nodes as the name says there. So it runs every frame, and yeah, after this basically works as the not sure if the fence would be which one closes the thing, but it's gonna be false here after it finishes loading, and it's gonna see that the thread started. So that means that you finish loading the directory, and it's gonna emit a signal. And this file system changed is the signal that is used on the view, I think. So this one is set on the fs changed on this class, and this class now I changed the name to fs view, but this was the file system doc class. It's very similar functionality that they have there on Godot. So it's gonna call this function here after it loads everything on the process of this one. So after it emits here. Yeah, in here it sets the process to false, so it stops running the process after the first time. So this is the thing that I think I wanna change at the beginning. Because in my mind, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it like this. Because it makes more sense to like have two different functions. Either that or call the signal directly on the other function at the end. And then not use the process at all. So if I need to use the process, because now the way that I'm doing is I created this other class here, and this class is going to be the bridge between the two. Because the view model presenter, I think, or something like that. So it's basically, I think it's like just based on small differences on these patterns here, but it's basically the same thing. Like you have something in the middle, and then you have the view, which is what shows up on the front end, and you have the model, which is the state that is reflected on the front end. And then you have something in the middle that synchronizes both of them. That's basically the pattern that I'm trying to do. I think that model view presenter pattern. So probably I think the first thing that I have to do is to well, there's also one thing that's kind of weird. So the way that I did there in the end, I'm saving on a, so you can use I think, ref config to create a config file, and then the config save file is going to save the configuration, or it's going to save whatever data you pass there on the, so you create the config, then you set values on the config, so it changes the state of the class. Then you call the save, and you pass a path to the thing. And if you pass the user path, it's going to put on the app data on Windows for our Godots. And it's basically going to write the state of the config to the config file. So I'm doing that now. Yeah. So the thing that is kind of weird is that I think that is not, also it's not writing. That's probably because I changed something, and yeah, I do remember I saw this before. So I'm gonna have to see. I think it's because of the roots here. So it's supposed to load the previous directory after the first time. And if it doesn't have this cache path, this cache file here, then it loads the button in the beginning there of the scene that I have. So the tough thing is, what should I do first? So basically this function here in the end is going to be the one that, this update tree is the one that creates a class, and it creates based on the roots of the other class. So this is basically the front end, and it's going to call create tree in the end here, and this is the root directory from the model. And yeah, I'm gonna have to change this function as well, I think. This is the part that is, so one of the parts that I think that's is kind of the hardest to understand or to think about is that, like, the easiest thing to do in the beginning is to just emit the signal before the function runs completely on the schedule directory. So like I can put based on a timer or something like that, and then send the signal, and then this one would load the stuff. There's actually like a lot of different ways I think to do this, but it's like it's complicated on the nuance of how to achieve this. As one way I think that it would be to load like one level and then not load anything else, and the other one is to load everything, but then as you are loading, you send the data, you send the minimal data to the front end, which is this class, to load the state first, even though it doesn't have anything, and then you react to events. Then, if that directory that is open, for example, doesn't exist yet, then you send a signal to the backend, and then you load those directories first. But then this is the question: is like, because the other function is still going to be running, so if you're using multiple threads, you're gonna have to. I think that, like, the synchronization has to be done through a cache. So I think probably I should cache the tree states, and I should probably. I think I shouldn't do the whole thing. I should just load whatever is like the minimum amount of things that are necessary to make the thing work. The problem is if you open everything, then obviously it's gonna be. But this is another thing, you can implement virtualization. So virtualization is like you only load what's visible on the screen, and then you don't load anything else. And then as you scroll, for example, you recalculate things, and then you do the communication again. So basically, the scrolling that you have in the browser on a lot of apps, but it's kind of hard to implement, I think. So I think that the key is to think about the cache. The state that shows up on the front end has to be directly correlated with the cache on the back end. Because otherwise, like, how are you gonna know what you should load? Maybe before I think about this, so one of the questions is, well, like, what is the minimum thing that I can do to start translating everything? Then I think about the other stuff. I think I'm gonna have to change this function as well, because the way that this is working is just based on the root directory. And the question is, how do you? I think that the key is the data structure. So I'm gonna draw some stuff on SkyDraw to see. I think I'm gonna create another project so I don't get because last time I lost the content I did because I was doing a bunch of things on the same thing. Let's see how to create a new project. Resets canvas. I have to think about. How I'm gonna do this. I think so. I was gonna draw the data structure. I think like this would be the presenter, and I have the model, and have the view. So I think that the way to think about this is that the model has a cache, which is gonna be the tree folder tree opens. It's basically the states. So this is kind of the complexity and the thing that makes it hard is this thing because the cache the front end has to reflect the state of the cache, I think. And the problem is like what happens because obviously I'm thinking about like if you open a bunch of different directories and then let's say you scroll and there isn't the other ones visible, do you remove from the cache or do you implement a design that in the same way that Godot has on the memory where the memory always increases and never goes back? But then like when you're gonna like reinitialize this from the configuration the next time that they open the IDE, is that going to like make it very slow in the next time because then you're gonna have to load everything, like the whole cache. So I think one problem. So I think that the key is to think about the cache. So how to structure the cache and how to synchronize with the view states in the beginning. But maybe before I do that, I can try to change the signals because one of the things that is very annoying to me. So this one I tried to delete one of the functions, but it apparently is used here on this dialog to remove a file. So I just left there. Should probably close everything. So one of the things that is annoying is the all these flag variables here. So I guess I want to see if the fs view calls the scan changes, I think. Yeah, so it's this function here. Oh, it's actually it's gonna be so which one calls this one? I think it's this function here. So this one I think that I have it here because the other class has, but I'm not calling anymore. Yeah. So for now it doesn't matter. So and the question is, do you? I think I should just comment everything. Comment it out. I remove the flags. I'm gonna create two other functions, and I'm gonna put the stuff that is on the process there on the functions. I wanna remove the main thing that I wanna try to do is remove the flags first. I wanna remove as many flags as possible, as the flags is just annoying. So I think that's trying to get to a place where I have signals and then I do this stuff based on signals is gonna be simpler. So I'm gonna create two different functions. This is gonna be finished scan. The thing is, do I need? I guess I'm gonna put this on the functions, and then I'm gonna see if I can just put emit a signal at the end of the scan function. The main thing that I'm not sure is about the trans. So I'm thinking about just pushing all this stuff. I'm gonna copy everything, then think about it later. I'm gonna remove the flags. Do I need first scan? I think I don't need first scan either. So is this scan, the source changes? Doesn't look. The problem is that there's a bunch of dialogues that they use, which I also copied. Uh, I tried to do the same thing that they did there for all the functionality, like as a starting point. So I'm not really sure, like all these dialogues here. I have to see if they're gonna call the. Maybe I should just. But if I search, it's gonna be annoying because there's gonna be more stuff. But let's see. I think I should focus on the dialogues later because I'm probably gonna have to change the functionality of what happens when you right click a file either way or right click a folder. But the problem is that I don't wanna. It's gonna be more annoying if I remove and then later on get errors. So I'm just gonna delete this. Yeah, I think it's not. I'm not using this anymore. So I'm just gonna remove. And this is another function that's kind of annoying. So this function, I think that as it's like this depends on whatever you're gonna do on the thing, because it puts everything on this scan actions, and then it has another function that is going to determine what should do. I think. So like if you add a file or if you delete stuff like that, it's just annoying to think about. But I think I have to change this stuff because it doesn't seem like I think that's I can transfer the logic probably to the presenter if I need. So I should probably try to remove first and then only if I need, then I add again. I think it is at the end of the scan actions that is going to delete or whatever. And it calls scan fast changes in the end. Also, it's on the scan fast changes that it uses the actions, I think. So it pushes this stuff to the scan actions. I think on the update scan actions, no, it's here. I actually don't remember now. There is a function that's gonna take these actions and is going to do stuff based on the actions. I don't remember if it's this one. I think it's just this one. So yeah, on the scan fast changes, it's gonna put actions on the scan actions, and then in the end it calls the update scan actions. Then depending on what actions happen, it's gonna should delete the stuff. So I think that the actions are gonna keep track of the directory, and then it's gonna delete if it was deleted, or if it's gonna add. So I'm gonna call the function. I'm thinking about I want to change the stuff on the threads as well, because I want to separate the logic as well. So like I want to separate everything into functions. Like basically separate the parts of the things first. So like puts everything that loads the directory in the beginning separately from the stuff that is meant to scan changes, and then remove all the flag variable as many flag variables as possible, and then manage the flow of data on the presenter instead, because I think that's going to be simpler. It's going to be easier to understand how it works. But my biggest concern is that I'm going to get a bunch of errors in the beginning. And it's going to be annoying. Like if I remove a bunch of stuff and then get an error, I might have to go back, and it's going to be kind of annoying. So I'm thinking about like what is the easiest way to do this. So I'm gonna call the function that I created at the end there. So finish the scan. And this one is gonna emit the signal right away. I think that I can do this, so it doesn't matter. Because that way, this stuff I put here to debug there, to check the time that it was taking to load this stuff. So probably just I'm gonna keep this stuff here because I might use the time, I think. So there's obviously two different approaches. One is you do it based on the number of files. The other one is you do it based on the amount of time it takes. Like you could say, for example, like if it takes 30 seconds to load, send the signal to the front end to load whatever is loaded already, or you can say X amount of files and then you send the signal. I think ChatGPT recommended. It gave an example that it used like chunks, and it did based on the number of files. So basically, loop over based on a number of chunks, which is the amount of files you want to load each time, and then you send after the chunk is done. Now, obviously, this is the part that's kind of hard to think about. It's like, so like here on this like, kind of picture, because so there's gonna be multiple threads, I think. So at least two threads. One is gonna be the one that loads initially, So this is the first one that runs, and then there's gonna be the one that is updated based on events, I think. And this is the thing. So like, it probably have to use mutex to prevent data races. So I guess I can look into the other classes that Godot has, because Godot uses, I think, safe numeric. They created a safe numeric and another class, I think, that has STD atomic functionality, which is basically a class from the standard C++ library that allows you to put fences. And the reason why, like, there is different flags you can pass, which is for loading and storing. And the thing that matters the most for the data races is the memory model of the, I think, both the architecture and the compiler, the way that it's gonna work, because the compiler and the architecture are gonna reorder structures to make the execution faster, so it can execute more instructions at a cycle. And because of the reordering, there are central operations, like, I think what's like, memory is the thing that forces like a sequence of events. Anything that is not related to the same memory is not bounded by the, it doesn't have to be bounded by the sequence that you originally put. In the article, that Stack Overflow article that I saw last time that I saw this is very good. I think every time that I think about this now, I think about that article. So like, I think that memory is basically space, and time is each thread. So all threads have to synchronize on the same space, on the same memory, so they have the same reference frame, the plane. But obviously it doesn't mean that they have to execute on the same time. So in order to ensure that happens, that they all have the same reference frame, you need to implement the memory model. Like, you need to implement the mutexes, and the mutexes are going to take into consideration the memory model based on the flag you pass. So you're basically saying to the hardware and to the compiler, like, on this range of code, you can't reorder the instructions because of the memory, basically. I think that's what's happening. Oh, fuck. It opened on this thing. So it's basically this picture here from this Stack Overflow answer. And I think that what I'm saying, like, is correct, is the way that, obviously I might be missing something, but so I think that the dots here are the threads and the planes are the memory model. So like, you can reorder, the reordering of instructions is kind of like changing the reference frame of the memory. It's like shaping space. And the threads obviously go on their own time, so it's kind of like not deterministic. I think you have to run to see what's gonna happen with each thread. But as long as they have the same reference frame, same plane, then you can ensure that they're working with the same memory, basically, like same memory state, not the same memory, but. So this is the thing that I'm thinking about here. So like, I think in the beginning, when they scan your directory, is going to be this thread here. Oh, there's also, so there's both the, yeah. So there's both the event thread and then the scan changes thread as well. It's like one thread is for, the question is whether or not I can use the same thread. I don't think that makes, maybe it does make sense to use the same original thread to react to events, but maybe not actually. I think probably not. So I think that what I have to do is encapsulate everything on functions, and then on the places that the threads are gonna have to work on the same cache, you put defenses. But then I have to think about how to make sure that to prevent them from What happens if one of the threads is already working on that place? Basically, the way that I'm thinking about the cache is gonna be like a tree. It's probably better to put here. I imagine that the blue ones are the ones that were loaded in the beginning, like the directories. So like the way that it was working now is the loader thread would be the thread that initialized in the beginning, which is the scan new directory thread. So when it starts loading the directory. So this thread here would start loading. So the blue ones are the ones that are loaded, and these would represent the levels on the folder here. But then as this one is working, and obviously, so I think I have to inside of this new directory, I have to change the function so that it puts everything on a cache. So like the cache would serve like as a memory pool, and the memory pool is the thing that has to have fences. But then the question is like, how do you structure the fences? Because obviously, the idea would be that the event threads. So let's say like as the loader thread is loading these things here, the user clicks on this folder here. It's like it doesn't have this folder loaded yet, even though it has the one on the top. Then I would have to send a signal to this thread, and then this thread would have to send like to talk to the model. And so this is the part that I'm not 100% sure. It's like how do I have to do it based on the cache. Like basically this thread asks the model like do you have this on the cache? And then if it doesn't, then how do I make sure that it's not gonna mess up the work of this thread here? Because if I just put this on the cache, as this one is working, one you can have data races, which means that like both of the threads would try to create the thing at the same time, which would mess up the data. Or the other one, which would be like this thread would put the thing on the cache, but this one is still going. So you would try to put the thing twice. But maybe if you just check instead of this kind of directory, it doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe I should just check to see if, but I'm not sure if that's the best. I'm probably gonna use ChatGPT to try to clarify this. So I think it puts. Doesn't seem that it does anything with this. It's kind of weird. So maybe I removed something. Let's see here. So I imagine that they use this to put obviously the files and folders that were changed. Like let's say you remove a folder or a file, then like on the back end here you would put on this, and then you emit this to the front end through the signal. But it doesn't look like it's doing anything here. It doesn't have any function that's putting anything on the source changes. So I'm not sure what this is about. I'm just gonna remove this stuff, and then if I get an error, I see. Yeah, the biggest concern that I have, like I said before, is like removing a bunch of things, and then you get an error and you don't remember from what the thing comes from. So maybe you should do the functions first and then remove this later. So do the functions, compile, run, see if it works, and then do this later. I think you should still keep this thing here. I'm gonna remove the scanning variable. The question I have here is whether or not I need, like, this is gonna be the main entry point function for the scan. And I think it makes sense that they are putting these flags here to check to see if the flag is already working on the thing. But the question would be whether or not you can change this. Like, because if I can remove, then I have to put the scanning files on here again. So I think that the question is, am I always going to be calling the scan from places where it can't? But even if I'm not, it's probably better to just make sure that it doesn't run twice. I think I'm gonna remove the two variables. I'm gonna leave the thread check. So I'm gonna remove from the process as well this part here. So now I'm gonna basically do the same for the scan changes. Yeah, I wanna remove this as well, but like I said, maybe I'll do this one later. So like I move the stuff to the function first. The problem is that after I move the things to the function, I'm gonna have to change because the only way that I'm gonna be able to test is to put the signals on this one. So I'm probably gonna connect on the constructor. So connect the function from the file system presenter. Or should I just call the function from the constructor? I think I should just call from the model the scan function, and I should connect the signal to the file system changed, and then send the signal to the view, or call a function on the view. So this is another question: is should I emit the signal to the view after the model? I think I should just call a function and then call the function from the view. Call the function from call the view function from the file system presenter to load. So call files fs changes basically from the file system presenter and just move the signal from the fs view to this class here. I think that's probably what I should do. And this one might be kind of annoying. Yeah, because this is recursive. Hmm. So I'm not really sure. Because on the other one, I put the finalize scan at the end there. So I'm not really sure if I can put here. I think, yeah, but if I put here, it's probably gonna call a bunch of times. So obviously I can put the check there, but then I need the flag variable, which is kind of annoying. I'll be right back. think basically this is one of the classes that uses STD atomic or the memory. Obviously, I can put I can check based on the threads because it's obviously gonna be running, like the thread's gonna be running this function. So this is kind of annoying. I guess I can create another function and then just run the other function. I mean, maybe this is the best way actually. Like in the same way that this one has the scan file system, I just do the same thing. Actually has sure. Hmm. Yeah, this one initializes the threads and the other one runs. It's like this one has three functions actually. So it has this one, it has the scan file system, it has the scan new directory. And the other one has only the hmm. So I'm gonna create another function I think. Yeah, this one only has this one already. So I'm gonna put scan changes. For the scan, I put scan changes. The difference is that this one, so let's see this. So it just passes the file system thing here. And the problem is that I'm just gonna remove this and then call the other one. Basically the same thing. The only difference is it has to check to see if the directory exists already. I should probably. I think I'm gonna leave it here. And maybe here. Makes more sense. I'm gonna have to put on another name, I think. Yeah. Mm. I'm basically trying to like do as close as possible to the scan. So like basically do the same flow that the scan has. So maybe the other one is gonna be scan changes file system. It's really confusing me. So the scan is the where? So the one that is mapping is scan changes file system. A scan file system would be like this one. Thus, then from the threads. Yeah, so now I think it's basically the same. So this one is the entry point that gets called from outside. This is the equivalent of the scan one, I think. Yeah, scan, and then scan sets the threads, which is gonna call scan file system, which is gonna call scan the directory. And on the other one is scan changes, then calls the threads, which calls scan file system changes, which calls scan fast changes. So now I think it's basically the same. And then I put the functionality here instead. I think I should probably remove all the flags. So I should remove all the flags, and then if it breaks, then I think about what should I add again. I think that the scanning change is done. I should probably keep, and the other ones I remove. I'm gonna remove everything. Also, maybe I should remove the this trans shack from the other one and put it here. So basically this shack here. I should probably make this private. A scan file system. So I'm gonna put the finish and the started as private, I think. So the ones that are meant to be used are the ones that initialize the run. So obviously this is gonna be in the beginning. So I just wanna see if it works first. So once I get to the point that it works in the same way that it was working before, but with the new structure, then I think about uh, how I'm gonna implement or try to implement the other stuff. I think I forgot to put the name of the class, maybe. I think I should move the conditions from the other function to this one and then remove from the original. Basically, these conditions here move to the this. I'm gonna remove this stuff. I just put this before. I don't think I need this. I'm gonna separate this as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna remove that. Should probably try to remove everything and then add again if I need. Just gonna remove this stuff. So now the problem is, yeah, I think that if I try to compile now, I'm not really sure. Because obviously I have to change this thing now. So I think here what I was thinking about is searching for a file system. This file system is the name of the member variable that I put on this class to represent the model. So I should probably move this. This one is gonna be one of the annoying parts. But maybe I do the scan first, because the scan is the one that matters. So there's both the scan. The scan changes is supposed to run every frame, I think. I was thinking about also like I can put based on a timer. So like every 5 seconds or something. Instead of all the frames on the notification process. It's basically the thing that is gonna check to see if there was anything changed on the file system. Because obviously you can change the file system from outside of the application. So wanna update the changes. So I think you have to do it every time. I think it doesn't make sense to put the easy scanning anymore. Obviously I'm gonna move everything to the other class anyway. So I think I should just remove everything from this class and then I just think about like from scratch on the other one. Because now it's not gonna matter anymore. Because once the other ones can, I think this way is a lot easier as well to understand. Like once you call this scan on the presenter, it's going to emit the signal, and then when it emits the signal, this one's gonna run. Yeah, so I'm gonna remove everything that has this. So this is another thing that I'm gonna have to implement, but I think it's just a detail, so I'm gonna do it later after I like once I see that I was able to like load the large directory progressively and also react to the events in the correct way. Then what I have to do is implement something similar to the what React has. React has a component called suspense, which allows you to put a fallback component. So like as the data is loading, you can put another component to show, and that's what shows the spinner on the on websites as the data is loading. So I think I have to try to do something similar here. Obviously, it's going to be different, but I try to do something like that. And VS Code has that as well. When you have a large directory and like it doesn't load everything at the same time, it just loads whatever is going to be visible at first. So when you open, let me see if I can. I'm gonna open the documents folder that has a bunch of stuff on VS Code because there's too many files. So when you open, it shows everything here, but it is not. There's some of them is not open. So when you click now, and now it's pretty fast. Maybe it's because I opened one time already. So maybe caches. But I like I'm very confident that it doesn't load everything in the beginning. And as you click, it loads whatever you need. But I think after the first time you load, it probably saves the configuration on a workspace or something, and that makes it faster or whatever. Yeah, so now is an example. So it didn't load that folder. So because it didn't load the folder, when you click, it shows the loader icon. Yeah, the ones that are easy to see are on the code because there is more stuff to load. So it loads in the beginning stuff that has to show. And also if you try to load a very large directory on the same level that has a bunch of files, it's gonna crash VS Code. So it doesn't load everything. And that's why I was talking about trying to implement it because I think that what the normal file explorer does is like show the loading screen here. And I think that the normal file explorer they implement virtualization, so they just show whatever is visible on the GUI while they load everything else on the background. So I have to see if I can implement the loader icon, like how to implement the other icon as the data is loading. And this I remember about this because that's they have something like which is kind of similar, which is they show this progress bar when they are loading. Usually it's very fast because the project is not very big, the directory. And that's why they did it like this on Godot, I think. Is because the files and folders that it shows on the editor it's very unlikely that it's going to be a big folder because it's just a folder of the project. So, but they do have this component here, which is the progress bar that they were showing, which I'm not going to do, so I'm going to remove. But I think I have to do something similar. So maybe I should go back. When it's time to try to implement this, I should go back to their stuff and see how they implemented this progress bar. It's basically this thing here, and they have another class, I think, on the editor. That's why I didn't implement this. One, I wasn't sure if I was gonna use it, and two, they have other this editor progress bar here. They have more code on the editor, so it's more annoying to pass everything. I think just class on Godot that allows you to show like the progress bar when you export the project or when you do things that like import stuff that takes more time, then you can see the progress bar. So I think can try to see like on these classes how they do this on the drawing, and then try to see how to do it on the like how to do it with the loader icon instead of this. Yeah, but I'm gonna do this later. So they use a range to show. So this is a question that I have now as well. Like I'm saving the configurations on this class, so I'm not really sure. I think probably I should try to move this to the other class. But the problem is that the configurations depend on the paths of this class. Maybe just call the function from the other one. Not sure if that's the best though. I think I'm gonna do this later. Hmm. I think here I have to like do something. So I should probably emit a signal or something. And now I'm thinking I should probably, before removing, what I should have done is to create a new signal in this class and then put the signal instead on the parts. But I think the other ones, it doesn't matter. The ones that I deleted, it doesn't matter that much because it's inside of the cycle there. But I think here it matters because here is after you update for the first time, I think. And so when you click on the open folder and you select a folder, it's gonna run this function. So when it runs this function, it has to scan the directory again. So I'm gonna create a new signal. Thinking about the name in the beginning, I think I'm just gonna do updates. I'm probably gonna need several different signals depending what kind of thing happens, because it's the thing here. It's like the issue with thinking about this now is that it's gonna depend on the whole stuff about the cache here that I was talking about before. So like I think I'm gonna have probably one signal to load the things on the beginning. So this probably should be this update signal here. Or update file system. Or maybe it should be load file system. I'm gonna write this down on the thing there so I remember. I'm gonna have another signal. I'm gonna call it update, I think. So initially, I'm not gonna send anything to the signal. I'm just gonna put the signal so I can change there. But then probably the update is gonna have to be different, I think. The rescan obviously is gonna call whenever there's something that changed on the file system directory. So I'm probably gonna have to send some data as an argument to the signal so that the presenter calls a different function on the model to update depending what happened, I think. Like the biggest challenge is the cache that I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do it. But I do think that I have to create or probably a hash map or something. The other annoying thing is that it probably has to be a variant. So I'm probably gonna have to use a dictionary or something else. Like I can't use a hash map because I need to cache the states on the configuration file. In order to do that, I have to put the information on something that the variant supports, which is kind of annoying. Like I should probably put the I should probably create the cache based on the path of the folder. That maybe then I can use a set or something. Because then I'm just gonna create another signal for this, and I'll think about it later. I'm probably gonna have to send something to maybe update file system. I'm gonna delete this. This is related to the progress bar. Just gonna delete. Yeah, I think what I was gonna say about the cache is that like if I can put the if I can create the cache based on the file paths, files and folder paths, then I think it's gonna be easier to synchronize the data. So like I would have to put the mutexes based on the path pool, let's say. So it could be like a vector of strings with the paths, and then I do the synchronization of the actual classes based on the path. So I check based on the because the state has to be done through the classes, the FS model directory classes, because that's what creates the actual tree. But then what reflects what is seen from the tree, or how much I create or delete the nodes on the tree, is gonna be based on the vector of paths. I should probably ask ChatGPT these things. I think that makes more sense. So that I would like do the logic of the threads based on the path, based on the vector of paths, let's say. And then the on the other functions I would check to see if the path exists. I think probably like a hash set obviously would make more sense. But then the issue is you can't cache this because it's not supported by the variant. But then maybe I can, maybe in order to cache on the configuration, I can translate from the hash to a vector. I think that probably is better actually. So when it's time to save, because the main thing that matters for saving is remembering the directories that were open. Yeah, because you have to show the states. So I think I'm gonna let me see if there's anything that because the main thing that I had to remove from this class for now is the scan. But I think that the rest of the stuff is gonna be more. I'm not like I'm not sure. I probably should remove actually. I'm gonna have to remove because I'm gonna move to the other class. But I should probably remove those later. So I think in the beginning, the main thing that matters is the scan. So I should call scan now from the presenter because the other one's not calling. So maybe on enter 3. Because I think for now I can call only one time. Then later I'm going to see. I'm gonna see if I can call like this without having to check for any flags or anything. If it's not gonna break. So I think in the beginning that's all I have to do. Trying to think if it is gonna be if it matters that they are connected, that they're not being connected through the presenter yet. Just removing the scan. Yeah, but I think that the only thing that I was doing before is just running scan one time in the beginning. And one time, actually the signals, yeah, so I have to do that. So here I have to connect to the I think you connect based on the class has to be the one that connects. And then you should create a function with this one. Maybe in the beginning I think it makes more sense to put a function on this one. So I'm gonna do that already. I was gonna say to put the model instead of this class on the signal, and then just call the scan function from the model. But I think it makes more sense to put to create another function on this. I'll think about a name later. And put here. Yeah, so I'm gonna see if it compiles. And then I'm gonna run to build the scene again and then see if it's working. This is hmm. I actually just realized that it's not gonna work because of this. So maybe for now I'm just gonna put the view or the problem is that the view is just gonna maybe because the problem is the mod that I have here obviously is not the one that exists on the view. And the view depends on the model that is on the view, obviously. So if I call model scan here, it's not gonna update correctly. Then I'm just gonna put for now view. I don't remember if I did a get file system model or get file system. And so it's private. And this is the other thing. It's not gonna work because I'm scanning as well from this model here, but the model doesn't. So I have to connect to the signal as well. So model. I'm gonna have to pass everything to this one, basically. The thing is, I don't want to do this now. I just want to check to see if it's working. So I think that this is. The easiest thing to do is just to do the function, which is kind of annoying, but. Alright. We're just gonna do like this for now. So I'm gonna think about the way to ask this to ChatGPT about the synchronization thing. And the first thing that I have to, once I get to the point where it's the same as the other one, but with the three classes, I think the first thing that I have to do is to see, maybe the very first one is to emit the signal first before everything loads. Yeah, I think that it doesn't matter that much. So that should be the easiest thing. So you emit the signal first to show some stuff. So I can put a limit on the scanner directory of files. Then once it reaches the limit, I just emit the signal to the front end to update the view. Then once I have that, the next thing to do is to figure out how to synchronize the initial loading of the scanner directory and the interaction of opening folders. I think I have to review the opening folders because I don't remember which function runs. So I should probably go over with the debugger to remember. And maybe I should do that in the beginning. So like once I get to the file system presenter and I move everything to the file system, connect them through signals, and I have the basic stuff. Then I go over with the VS codes with the debugger and put breakpoints to see what function runs after you open a folder. And then clarify the logic. Because obviously I'm gonna have to change that function. And I'm probably gonna have to change all the other functions as well. Like what happens when you open a file. So like, but I guess on the front end it's just gonna be like emitting a signal. But then I think that, yeah, the thing that is gonna matter is the information you emit with the signal, because that's gonna determine what the process presenter is gonna do, which is gonna determine what the model should do. And so in that situation, I have to see what happens, like how do I organize things so that's they can do with the same, like as one of the threads is updating the structure, it doesn't interfere with the original one that is still loading the directory. And also the other question is whether or not I should load the entire directory, which I think I shouldn't. I think I should. So usually that's the way that I think about all the problems as well. Like there's usually a range. So it's just the polarity of the electromagnetic field. So we have two extremes. And most likely the optimal solution is going to be somewhere in the middle that is like converging in complexity to infinity. So that's the same thing that I think about here. Like on one extreme you only load the surface level, and on the other one is you load everything. And I think both of these approaches is probably not gonna be the best, because if you load everything, then it's like too much memory, and if you only load the front, then it's probably slower to interact with. So the best approach is probably going to be somewhere in the middle. So I have to figure out, and that's going to be reflected on the data structure. So like the key is figuring out on the tree how to synchronize multiple threads, changing the tree, and how to determine the limits, which is basically the range of the stuff that is loaded. It's like this line here is the line of complexity that is going to change, and it's going to determine the efficiency. So there's both this line on this dimension, which is the cache, and there is also this line on the virtualization, which is what shows up on the front end. The combination of these lines is going to be how the fluctuation of data is going to change the structure of the cache. That's what I have to figure out. And then the algorithms and the flow of data between the classes is going to be a reflection of that, I think. And so there's a problem with the trans. It's basically because of the trans there. So what I think is happening here, the reason why it's showing this message is because when I call the scan on one of the functions, one of the times, but the weird thing is that one of them is only based on the signal, so I'm not really sure. But I'm pretty sure that it's probably because it's trying to run the function twice on the same thread. So like because I'm not preventing the function from being called after the threads was started. So I probably should go over with the debugger to see when the message shows up. I want to see anyway. And the problem is that I'm not really sure if it's gonna update the scene if it throws the error there. I think it probably won't. So if it works here, it's not guaranteed that it worked. So I have to go over with the debugger probably. It's probably the easiest thing to do. I was gonna ask ChatGPT about this. I was thinking about which way should I ask this. I'm not sure if that's the best way to ask. The easiest way to figure out is to go over with the debugger. But I think I'm gonna stop streaming now because I'm kind of tired already. So I'm probably gonna go over off stream, and I'm definitely gonna continue to do this later. This is not loading. It's probably to do with this thread issue. So I think that's, like I said before, it's probably because I'm not checking to see if the thread's running or not. It's one of the flags that I removed. So what I'm gonna do is go over with the debugger, and then I wanna I'm gonna see if I can avoid using flags as much as possible, and then just change, instead of using flags, just change to encapsulate everything in a function and then connect the classes through signals through the presenter class. That's what I wanna do. And after the class works in the same way that it was working before, but with a different structure, The main thing to figure out is this thing about the cacher. The way that I think it works usually, like from first principles perspective, is going to be like the presenter is the thing that is inserted on the sync tree. Then the presenter communicates to the model to load the initial state of the directory. The model is going to have heuristics that determine how much data should it load in the beginning, and it has to take into consideration the is both like a breadth and depth, obviously. So like the breadth is directly correlated with the dimensions that are shown on the GUI components on the front end, and the optimizations on that part is going to be virtual scrolling. So basically, you have to reduce only show the range that is visible and with a certain degree, like a certain range that is going to determine like additional folders or files you have to show beyond that. So that is not so it doesn't lag when you scroll. Then from that point, you have to think about the view or the you have to think about the depth and how further you because obviously the directories are going to change on the structure of the tree. Like you can have one directory that has a very deep folder in the middle, let's say, and another one that has a very deep folder at the end. And that's going to change the structure of the algorithm you create to the structure of the algorithm you use to build the states from the model. So as you build that state, you have to figure out how much of the state you want to cache and how much you want to load in the beginning. And then as this is loading, the other part that is very hard and annoying is figuring out how to synchronize the threads and how to change the priority of what you're loading on the cache that represents the state based on the user interaction. So I think the key question from fundamental first principles is as an algorithm is executing from one thread and is changing, placing like a memory pool, which would be the cache, what is the best way to interact with that? Because you have to change the algorithm that is running. Because you can't keep. I guess you just put I think that like the easiest way that I think about it is just putting the checks inside of the algorithm. So like you basically just put like check on the cache. If the thing already exists on the cache, then you retrieve that. But then like the questions that the nuances are on like how do you structure the cache? What data structure you use on the cache, and how the data structure reflects on the actual thing that's used. Because I don't think that is a very good true. Probably you can't even. Actually, you can. The connection of classes there on the FS model directory class could be viewed as a cache, but I think it's probably better to create another thing which should be the cache, and then have both this other thing that is the cache, that is like the pool, that's all the threads connect, and you have the other one that is the hierarchy of the classes. Because in my mind, it's more annoying to think about. But this is the part that I might have to change as well. So I might maybe it's not the best to have the classes, and it's best to have something else to load the state. Because I think that the only thing that matters from the only thing that matters to load this stuff is the paths. So maybe I don't need to. But the thing that makes it kind of annoying is that if you don't use it, then it's probably very hard to. It might be like more annoying to keep track of the state of the subfolders. Both VS Code and Godot do like this, where they have a new class for each subfolder. So obviously, I think that it makes it a lot easier to think about because then like the state of that level of the directory is on that class, the object. And if you do it on path, then it makes it more. But in my mind, I think intuitively it makes more sense that like the paths seems faster to load the state, and for the front end, the only thing that matters is the paths. The structure matters though as well to like determine how it's going to show the stuff. So I'm probably gonna have to change the functions on the front end as well, the create tree and the update tree. So those two functions, they are reflections of each other, I think. Like the only thing that changes is what classes are gonna be created. But maybe if I do it with maybe if I do it with the paths, the, for whatever reason, it seems that the paths is easier to think about for me, but it might be because of the structure of the state might be worse. But the paths it makes it easier to think about because like you can think about a pool of paths of files, and then what determines what gets loaded is the algorithm. So instead of thinking about the objects and the connection of the objects on the algorithm, we just think about the uh, instructions of what paths should load. So the logic would be around the string and not the connection of the objects. I think that makes it easier to think about. So I'm gonna stop streaming now. Probably I'm gonna go over with the debugger of stream, and then I'm going to spend a lot of time asking ChatGPT probably now. So I'm gonna spend time thinking about what are the best questions to clarify this, and maybe continue to draw stuff here on SkyDraw to clarify. Is it the main thing that I have to the main thing that I have to clarify is what data structures to use for caching and how to synchronize the thing. And the other stuff, like, it's probably just gonna be moving the stuff from the FS view to the presenter. It's probably gonna solve this or make it easier to think about. But it's gonna be kind of annoying. And so I'm gonna stop streaming now. Next time that I stream, I'm probably gonna continue to do this stuff here. So the main goal is to make this class as the bridge between the two, and then change the data structure that's maybe change, maybe not change data structure that I'm using to load the states in the backend, and then figure out how to load things progressively by synchronizing multiple threads and the front end and the back end through the presenter class. Yeah. So see you next time.